afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Down in the Valley podcast. My name is Edson Ochoa, and I am one of the co-hosts of the podcast. Tonight, we have a very special interview that I wanted to bring you for a while. Actually, it had been in the works for a while. It just that recently it just was the perfect time to go ahead and bring him on. And we're talking about that we're going to have tonight none other than Rafael Amaya, the RGVFC Academy director. Coach Amaya, how have you been?
And welcome Doing to the well. Show. Really appreciate for bringing us to the show. Excited for you guys, for everything you guys do, and obviously for fans and the people from the Valley to really know what the Academy is about and what we have. And there's lots of talent here that we can promote as you'll hear through the program. And I really appreciate the time.
Of course, it's like I said, it's something that we've been wanting to do mostly because I feel like fans need to understand that the Academy is a very important piece of any soccer team, not only in the United States but worldwide, because you're talking about that you're developing what could be future players for your favorite team, in this case RGVFC, and more importantly the fact that they are developing our local talent, not only from the Rio Grande Valley but also from northern Mexico, if I'm not mistaken as well. So the fact that we have that closer connection with these future players as a region, I think it's really important to kind of highlight that and for people to know more about how the Academy works. And heck, even if you have kids that are in the age groups that the Toros Academy has, you might be interested in having them try to enter the Toros Academy as well.
Yeah, no, I would like to go back even a little bit, just how we began. And obviously I moved here from Colorado, where I was a former player for the Colorado Rapids, retired, and over the 17, 18 close years, worked in the community and always working with all the groups from all over the area. But I've always, as a Latino, part of my personality, given back to the game every Friday for all those years. Worked a lot with the inner city kids, with the low income kids. And when Wilmer Cabrera became the head coach here, he reached out to me and kind of say, hey, Rafa, we were working together. Back then he was with the youth national teams, takes on the opportunity of taking this position. He said, look, would you come out here, help me out with the tryouts for the pro team, for the USL? I'm taking over a team. It's right on the border, so on. And I came out just to help out and then realized what the opportunity was. I said, God help me and put me in this place, because one, I didn't know much about the area, but two, really always wanting to give back and with what soccer's given me. So Bert Garcia, who's the GM at the moment, obviously Mr. Cantu owning the team, got to see how things were progressing. There were really good tryouts for the first team. And part of, like you said earlier, the strength of a professional team is the body of what the farm team is, just like baseball or any other sport. So behind that, coming from South America and coming from soccer around the world, looking at Mexico, right across from here, especially with Monterrey, that has some of the best soccer all around, on the guys' side, with Tigres, with Rayados, and other big universities that produce players. There's also on the girls' side, 80% of the national team comes from the Monterrey area. And so with that said, here was an opportunity, and Javier Morales, who worked with them, had been looking at who potentially could come in and work with the youth. And there's always a lot of people that you have to give a lot of credit locally, from all the youth local clubs, from the high schools, from everywhere else. And there always comes that opportunity, but there also comes that issue. Wow, so if we're starting with a professional team and they're going to build an academy, they're going to take my players away. They're going to take this, they're going to take that. So you always have that. No matter where you go, there's always going to be that. But from day one, all I've done is follow the pathway, the system the professional team plays as an assistant coach. And for the first 6 months, thanks to Javier Morales and a few other coaches in the area, I got to see a lot of talent, small, 5v5 little fields, going to Mission, going watch Atlas, going to watch Tigres, going to watch Pachuca, going to Brownsville, seeing a little bit more and getting to know before I said, okay, here's kind of what we want to do as a plan to get started. And obviously, you have to take into consideration the distance that most kids and families travel here. So I kind of said, well, it's probably one of the lowest incomes areas in the country. But when you look at every trip is about 5 hours or more. You get to San Antonio in 3.5, 4. But if you're playing in a game, you want to leave 6 hours before so that you have an hour to rest and stretch before you get going. So all those things just make it for parents and everybody that gives the time. And literally your whole weekend is gone. I remember driving to San Marcos to see teams play in their state cup and just sit down and watch the talent from here and obviously watch what the competition in South Texas is and North Texas, and very good competition. But once again, I remember watching game Saturday. I was there with the first team playing San Antonio. I stayed to watch games on Sunday from the youth. And so all the local clubs in San Antonio, Austin, in that state cup. And I remember a team finishing about 6 p.m. the game. They went to eat at Whataburger, give it 6:37, put gas, got on them, just followed them. And I felt like, okay, how do these kids feel after playing games, doing all that, driving and getting in close to midnight, 1 a.m., and then getting up the next morning, going to school. So that's when we started saying the type of program that we have to do and build is something around where we will go out and play games, but we have to take a little bit of going back and forth, and let's first train the players right, get them up to par to be able to compete. And we're not just spending money to go out and just play games and say, well, you're wearing a Toros shirt, because as you said earlier, one of the first goals is how can we move players up the pathways? How can we teach these kids to be a better player on and off the field? How can they, eat better, sleep better, have better reaction when they play? And so once we put our first group together, remember at the McAllen complex, we had our first tryouts, and we had close to 200 kids. I mean, there was a lot of good talent out there, and everybody wants to be part of it. And then obviously you cut down numbers. There were coaches there and everybody telling you this is the best player, this is that. And you obviously look for the best player, but when you really look at kids, you have to look at the best all around person, because just being a good talent doesn't take it all. You got to combine education. You got to look at part of changing the cultures, making sure these kids start looking at potentially what universities can they attend based on what soccer was here in the US, where you would get drafted out of colleges. And when I was in Colorado, I had easily 12 to 14 first round drafts that we worked with and made it through the pathways with Kansas City, with Real Salt Lake, with New York FC, Kyrie Shelton. All those kids grew up playing with me and then kind of coming through. So for me, it was that first opportunity to really do it with a pro team and be next to the coach, see what he wants out of the defense, see what he wants out of the midfield, see what he wants out of the forwards, the goalkeepers. So when we train the same way, because he was going to need 1 or 2 or 3 players for practice. And what you don't want to do is bring somebody who's not ready and then stops the practice. And at the same time, really with anything in life is building confidence, and then having people believe in what we do. And so we got the teams. We started traveling to tournaments. One of our first tournaments was the Alianza Cup that we put in our budget. Then we went down and it got rained out. And after we've trained so hard, and we are stuck in the hotel, and we're like, what do? We can't come down here and not play. These guys are ready to play in the hallways. And it was fun really watching every kid smile, being in the same uniforms, getting down there. And so we called Houston Dynamo and say, hey guys, we're here, we're stuck. Could you guys give us a game on your turf field? So we ended up playing with the 17s back then and the 15s, and did really well, played well for not being, a DA club, and at the end of the day, it just showed automatically what type of talent we had. We had Brandon Morales. We have Fernando, who's now playing in Spain. We had other kids that now have graduated from our program. They're into their third year of college. And tomorrow we're graduating our fourth class. So that combination of creating where we can train in the morning parallel to the pro team, what players they need. And now that's where Diego Rocha appears, and Diego Rosa is now with the national pool. So more and more, but I think there's another 50 more of those out there that we still, because of the culture and kids, sticking with their high schools, which is, it's great, whatever you guys want to do, there is, but sometimes you have to get outside that box and have that opportunity so that you can get seen. And by no means, we have the two twins that left the area. They're playing for FC Dallas. We have quite a few other kids that have grown here that have shown what the potential is. But for us is what an opportunity to finally bring high elite soccer into our area where now teams travel here and it's not always out. And the same goes for the girls. For one of the first programs that we were going to do with the girls was jump into the ECNL, and we were going to do a partnership with a club in Austin. And it turned out that we made it a partnership closer with Classic Elite for the girls side. And those opportunities do happen, but there's, again, you play a 6-month season or you play a 10-month season without high school play. And high school play dominates here, because the pay to play is not there. And I think around the world, there's not so much pay to play. You have kids playing on the street. You have a lot of creativity. Why do most South Americans have great touch? Because the fields are crappy. You're playing on the street. You're dribbling around rocks instead of cones, or you're not being told what to do every single time. But it has improved in many ways. And for us, starting the school brought us that togetherness where we train in the morning, went to school, they ate breakfast, they ate lunch with us, and then back on the field. So when a team trains 4 times, like a high school in 3.5 months, we did that for 10 months, but we didn't train 4 times. We trained 8 times. And we were able to do that. And then the buses take the kids to school, to home, and back. And so that takes away from those parents that may be single families, that takes away from parents that may also have, issues getting because they have other kids and other stuff or their jobs. Right now, I'll give an example, Fernando, that went to Spain. He was 16 when he was at Rayados, and we obviously watched him and with good people that ID him, and we brought him in. Right away, you could see a great first touch. He was brought into practices, regularly with the first team. When the different coaches, obviously, was Wilmer, was junior, and then Gerson, who's been really open. It definitely helps out that those are coaches. They came through the youth ranks, especially the youth national teams, because they know what it takes to get to that point. And then Fernando says, well, I don't know because I haven't done well academically. So I said, well, let's get together. Let's see what your grades are. Got with their parents and said, look, here's the plan. So there's a team plan, but there's also the personal development plan for each player that, I would say 80 to 100% of the time you can work on the line side to side. But if the kids' grades go down, we do not let them play. We don't let them travel unless they keep 75% or higher. We made a contract with each, which we're even going to lift this year to an 85. This way, there's no issues about when these kids are being looked by schools, what that is going to be an automatic, and so we pushed them. Physically, we improved a lot in the last few years, and we added staff that are professionally. And we looked at also bringing the staff from within the United States. But as you said before, we're in the cross on the border, and everyone here grew up trying to go play for Liga MX. Due to FIFA rules, once you turn not even 18, from 10 to 18, if you're a registered player and you play in the United States, you cannot go play in Mexico. Even if you're an American and go play in Mexico, now you cannot play in the United States. You have to clear FIFA
Mm.
rules. So those are things that we do want people to know, find out what the rules, what the regulations, what all of those are, so that you can follow and make your decisions. Nobody should be pushing to something and then say, oh, well, you signed here, now you belong to us. Anything like that. I mean, we're an amateur club, yeah, with the dream of kids making it professionally. And like I said, many people along the way have helped out. Idea Toros, through the school, has given us a lot. They're a great partner. They're our biggest sponsor that helps provide, as long as the kids in their contract also go to college. It's 100% college, and that's what the model is for us. And so we get now, January 7th, the new school was built. We helped build it. We helped design it. How would it work? And it's right next to HEB Park.
Mhm.
So when Tap Ramos and Houston Dynamo came in this year, and obviously throughout the years, Wilmer, when he had the team here and then he left, it was just amazing that they came in every time we were ready, and then we were playing more games. And then finally we had Houston Dynamo Academies come up. We brought in Tigres and we brought in Rayados at different age groups, and we started kind of challenging our kids now with international play.
Mhm.
There's always going to be cost, and there's always going to be things that we want to provide for more. Fields has always been a little bit an issue. As much as we have some beautiful fields, they take care of them a lot, so you can't step on them. So you have to move around, and not complaining. They're just saying that everything may look perfect, but it's not perfect. And at the end of the day, we make the best. Our coaches make great decisions. We have a conditioning coach that came from Tigres, who's won the U17, U20, U22 national championship, won Dallas Cup. Reynaldo, also the head director and a technical director with
Mhm.
curriculum, bringing everything. When I met him and watched him work for 2 weeks, I actually went to see Tote Castañeda, who was a former teammate of mine with Atlas. And so looking at overall, what would be one of the best situations for us here in the Valley?
So first of all, kind of, can you explain what your role as the RGVFC Academy director dictates?
Yeah, as a director, obviously making sure that our leagues and that we're in compliance with regulations, part of our leagues, make sure that the director, in my position, obviously, we had to take a course for the director's course on the U.S. national team, which is um, a lot of travel to Europe, a lot of travel within the United States to see other academies, a lot of leadership, a lot of classes in there, along of coaching and being able to work, building better curriculum, building more innovative areas, and really getting to know how U.S. soccer wants in order to see the talent. How can we train them to keep them at the level? And
Mhm.
obviously, with those having the pathways with RGV and having the opportunity to train with the academy, go train with the pro, and then back in the afternoon with the academy, well, I have been able to have many, many hours around the kids and be able to help in that personal player development, making sure that our staff is always, ready and organized. And then obviously in all ages, they've done a great job. Part of the development of the RGV for us is not just the player, but the coaching, the grassroots, which is still growing and there's a lot of talent. And then also now bringing in the US licensing, which we brought in already 3 grassroots. We will be having the D license, and then we also are, once we finish the D license in September, it was supposed to be already sometime in February, but because of the virus and everything got delayed, we already have coaches from La Liga Brasa out of Brownsville that have come to us, Roma. So we really expanded, and we're just really helping the development around the valley. And again, it's about helping, whether it's a youth club, whether it's a little academy, or whether it's a high school team. We
Mhm.
want to we want to help out anywhere from the, the the middle valley, the lower valley, and obviously here in the area, and all the way to Rio Grande.
So just to clarify, and the reason I ask this is because there's been a lot of misinformation, or a lot of people that believe that the RGVFC Academy is the same as the Houston Dynamo Academy. That is not correct, right?
Yeah, we're not. I mean, we're compete against Houston Dynamo. We actually, now that we're aligned in the MLS, you have obviously they are MLS, and we're an elite academy within the MLS structure. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the things that we're working out is where they, using an example, they loan from us Diego Rosas,
Mm-hmm.
that went to play in the GA Cup. And GA Cup is a tournament that's designated for the MLS teams, which they go and play also Liga MX, or they'll play teams from Canada, or they'll bring in more international play. And they asked us for Diego, and we obviously loan him so he can go. And we're not here to hold any kid from not moving to a better situation. We just want to make sure the kids are ready academically, or if they're leaving their families. Um, there's more talent. We've got tons of calls from Kansas City, from Colorado, from now Austin FC. And so no, we do communicate with them. We're not completely tied in. We help out the first team, but at the end of the day, RGV Academy, with the help of Mr. Cantu and facilities, we have our own nonprofit organization, follow rules, protocols within the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And we just provide something for the kids that is at an elite level here locally and for the Valley.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting aspect that you mentioned. That uh, even with your own players, your boys and the girls that are part of the academy, you're always looking forward to push them to go outside the box, to not conform themselves to where they're currently at. You mentioned with Diego Rosas going with the Dynamo to the GA Cup, and also continue to push them with their academic work. I think it's really important. We've discussed it in the podcast, multiple times before. How important education can be, for kids that are trying to go and play soccer. In fact, we were talking about it when Brandon Morales decided to go to Cornell. Where it's really important for somebody to get their education. Even if you want to go pro as a pro soccer player, it's important to get your education to have a fallback, in case for some reason it doesn't work out at the pro level. At least you have your career that you can make something out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Brando is one of those special cases, just like Fernando, who had also quite a few opportunities. I mean, we have Dylan, who's at Air Force, all Division One players. And at the end of the day, I tell them, there's Division Ones that are very high in the elite level of play, but in the academics, I mean, there's obviously different levels, but your academics and your diploma, whether you play Division One, Division Two, Division Three, and Brandon's dream is to play professionally. By no means because he's going to Cornell, he's not keeping that dream.
Correct.
Most places around the world or countries, if you're at 17 by 20, you haven't made it to the first team. Most people look to the next player because there's more and more, and there's a lot of agents, and there's a lot of that, and really following and knowing that we um, we, including myself, came here to get an education and still be able to do what we love. We can't stop somebody from not doing what they want, and parents and kids will make those decisions. But if we don't help guide them through it, when things finish and they decided not to go to college, they get hurt, or they decide to, go back, obviously it's going to be on their own field because you're now going from an amateur to a professional level and you can't play NCAA. So most of the players that have done well have played minimum 2 years college, maybe your third year. And after that, you've taken enough credits to kind of by your fourth year, when you finish your junior year, you can jump into the draft, or you can jump in with one of the pro teams, because now every college player that plays could be part of that draft. And then slowly the draft is kind of going away, because now we have the youth academies that are training parallel and aligned with the professional. Today, there's about 250 homegrown players throughout the country.
Mhm.
And here we have a lot of players. And the other thing that in the trend is now Major League Soccer obviously has the first team. We were the first hybrid with RGV Toros in the country with the USL, so that the players are getting good playing time and they're training. They're
Mhm.
not just training and not sitting the bench or not playing. 5 or 6 players will come down. Obviously, the players that are here, the 2022, are training, playing hard, competing for that Saturday play or travel. And so that's creating that pathway. And more of our kids want to follow that. And Brandon Morales trained with them. Obviously, Junior gave him beginning a few touches, but then Coach Gerson right away, as we brought him into practice and in positions, we're like, wow, this kid is good. And he kept going and kept going. Right foot, left foot, very good, playing the 8, playing the 10, playing the 9 position, can play the 11. And that's one thing that we need to do, develop the younger kids. We started the academy opposite. You usually go from U12s and build up, but I personally knew that we only had one chance to show what we had in order to compete. And we went to IMG, played against the U.S. national team, which we lost, played against Tottenham from England, which we lost. But then we came right in with the teams from the U.S. that were part of the Dallas Cup and played that even. And then we played IMG, and we were right there with all of them. So we said, all we need is an opportunity, keep working and keep building. And Brandon took, that Victor. You name Isaac was one of those that ended up here, and we helped him, and he got into the youth national teams, and then he went down also to Houston Dynamo. So that relationship is always going to happen, whether you compete with someone, you're not part of them. The communication for the good of the game and for the good of the kids from the valley, it's creating those pathways.
Definitely. And going on with what you just talked about, we're building from the top down in regards to the age groups. Currently, what age groups are available at the Toros Academy?
So MLS, that starts in September. If all this goes well, we'll have a U19 team. We will have a U17. This is on the boys' side. There will be a U16 that only plays events, but also plays in the Champions League and USC.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the U15. A U14 is a very big team, big base, because we're already looking into the kids that will eventually become, the next MLS group. And they travel also to do MLS events in the U13. And those coaches have done great jobs at the different levels. Then we have the U12s with Coach Rafa, who's our Zone 1 coach, who works with all the little ones, U12s, U11s, U10s, U8s, U9s. And so the grassroots has to keep improving. But the repetition that with the coaches, the principles of the game, the 4 components of your attack, your defense, your transitions, and set plays has improved so much. Under U.S. Soccer, what system do we want to use? And we're aligned as a club. Most teams play at the same style, and we played very close to what the professional team did. But in the youth level, we actually have, we showcase our style. We don't play direct over the top. We really try to build that at the back, make sure that we can come out on the left side, on the right side, without just kicking the ball up the field, but building it through the middle, finding our forwards, creating uh, um, unbalanced runs to get behind, and then really not taking the abilities away and the personality of the Latino style of play. And that's something that really showed this year. The first year, Dallas, FC Dallas showed us, how it is, how they press you. We improved pressing a lot this year. Again, the coaches under the system that we play, and how we teach and coach during the week, from smaller groups to bigger groups to complex, has been very well. And then when we added the conditioning coach, that improved. So really all ages. The same thing happens with the girls. We have all ages. There are some ages that we have a few more and a few less. And then the kids still that are not the 17, the 19 to 17 and 15s, do not play high school, who are in MLS. The other groups, which we have a second team in each age group, so it's like their own farm system within there. They we have all ages as well, but those kids get a chance to play high school as well.
So relatively, the academy is really young. You know, you mentioned that you started building the foundation of it as soon as you came in along with Wilmer Cabrera. You know,
Yes.
so it was how how soon was it when the Toros Academy received the at that time the DA Academy designation, and what was the path towards that?
So for the first year, like I said, for 6 months, we didn't really start because the first team started on 2016 when the stadium was supposed to be built, but we actually played out of UTRGV. And then we moved there a year later. But that August, we kind of went on right away with the first groups that we did a year and a half, literally. And by playing in ING and playing in Dallas Cup and playing everywhere, they'd seen that we were doing really well. U.S. Soccer watched us play because we played the youth national teams against players that today already in the main national team and in Europe. And we showcased what we had, and then kids started getting scholarships. So right away we made some noise, found out what the process was, introduced. We put a plan. We put a 1, 3, 5 year plan that we've been really actually ahead of the plan, and we ended up applying. There were 300 teams applying for the academy. They saw our plan. They came out and saw our facilities. They saw what we have, and we got pulled from 300 to the top 25 within that week. We received more phone calls, and obviously the club was built and the nonprofit was built, and there's been changes in the management up top. But truthfully, I've been from day one with both the professional, the academy, and then the youth club, because there's almost three components to it. But at the end of the day, we're one, and that has really helped to showcase what we have. And so U.S. Soccer came out and ran a scouting. That's when they saw Isaac, and they within 3 days did paperwork, and he was flown out to LA to be part with the national team. They played the Galaxy and they played Cholos, and he started on those two games. And then eventually he came down here at, I think he was 15 turning 16, and then he ended up going to Houston Dynamo, where he was there almost 2 years, but came back now. And even then, I gave credit to those high school coaches and everybody who was his coach, because by no means we had the kid with us. Brandon Morales did really well in Dallas Cup and in those tournaments. So does Fernando, really everyone. And that's what opened up the opportunity. We were given a phone call again by U.S. Soccer, and I remember a lot. It was December 2018, and they basically said 2017. They said, "Look, we realized after looking after everything and the pathways that you guys have, that you're a big candidate. What are you guys in for it?" So sat down with our board and laid it out, and everybody was in it. And we were first year, and we had to play the schedule they gave us. We didn't have a chance to really. We had to jump. I mean, literally, it's like a train running, and we had to get on it.
Mhm.
It's been a great ride, a great experience, not only for the kids, but for myself and for our staff. And I mean, what's coming, it's even unbelievable now, also being part of the MLS, because we'll see more teams in the area visiting.
And now, moving forward, you get the sudden announcement that U.S. Soccer has terminated the DA academies for both the boys and the girls. What were the reactions of the organization in general from that announcement?
You know, um, obviously it leaves you shocked because we've done a lot of work, and the funding in every area was already worked, because we have to have that ahead 1 year ahead. You spend a lot of money on the travel. You spend a lot of money in taking care of the kids. the academics, all that. Obviously, idea does. But all of that saying, you look at the people that are involved, what other leagues, there was the ECNL, which has a really good pathway to college. So no matter what, we're not just building professional soccer players. We're building leaders. We're building kids that will go to college, come back, and give back to the community, model citizens. And so that's one thing that you'll always hear from us, from myself, and from all of our teachers. And so when that goes down, obviously we were for 2-3 weeks a lot of uncertainties. And more important, look at what's happening with the pandemic. We didn't even know if hopefully everybody's healthy. We got to keep everybody away. Coaches done a great job of. We're going on 9 weeks of Zoom training on the afternoons from 4 to 6 with the teams, and not just watching them, but obviously coaching them through it, taking attendance, taking evaluations, keeping everybody going. And everybody's a little tired. While everybody's been inside, I think all those exercises and keeping them engaged has been a pivotal point. I was working on the side on phone calls with what went down and telling you know, not only Gerson with the pro team what had happened. It was about 40 days of work, and we already, the Frontier League, had made a decision that we were going to stick together, whether we were going to go into the ECNL or we were going to form our own league. And so did other clubs in the country. And then MLS came in, being a former player. They got a hold of me, we talked, and then we were in that pathway. They looked at everything. I mean, so the first part is through. We're part of the founding members of the new MLS League.
Hmm.
Um, Part two now is working on the schedules, and part three is finalizing all the rules, regulations, and how this is going to work. And one of the biggest things that we all want is improvement and having a voice on the table. So we're not only there for a year, but our goal is to have a contract for 5 years minimum, so that we can build through budgets for years to come and other stuff. But you know, even doing all this, we don't know if we'll all get back to playing in September. So we're already looking at Plan B and Plan C through tournaments and showcases, because part of it is making sure that we are competing with professional clubs, but we're also competing across the country and regionally more, so we don't spend that much. With college coaches always being able to watch the kids.
So within the MLS Academy, would the RGV kids be given an opportunity to play against other MLS academies more consistently, or what were some of the benefits that
So
for that?
yeah, so even in our Frontier League, we play home and away against FC Dallas. We play home and away against Houston Dynamo. We play home and away now against Austin, Texas. We play home and away against Colorado Rapids, and we play home and away against Kansas City. And then we also have San Antonio, like us, where we're in the USL, where we are also part of the USL Academy, which I know you'll ask me a little bit more about that.
Hmm.
And then we have the other clubs. So there's 12 of us in our division, and it is too far for clubs to go from MLS to just play MLS. They need us, we need them as well to be able to compete and gauge where we are and to get more games. The whole goal is that teams are playing based on the age, anywhere from 30 to 45 games a year, obviously with playoffs and finals. In this way, the development not only improves here for the RGV, but as a whole for national teams, because the goal now that we're aligned with professional league in every country, Liga MX, ligas in Costa Rica, in South America, and Europe, they all have their system coming through.
Hmm. So going now that you touched up about the USL Academy, one of the biggest confusions that I had, and this is because I read, I believe it was on the Athletic, that they mentioned that RGV is also a part of the new USL Academy League, and they mentioned that it was more than likely that some age groups would be participating in the USL Academy, and then some others would be working at the MLS Academy. Can you Is that what's being planned for, or how would that work to balance
So,
both?
so USL, we already played the first year on USL. So just like MLS, USL, what they've done is with their teams around the country. I'm on the part of the board with MLS teams and with US national team representation as well on the board. And in Orlando, we sat down and drew what the plan was. So part of the plan is doing regional tournaments rather than travel all over the country and spend money because it's too far of a country. In this way, just like MLS does in their GA Cup, that's the GA Cup for the USL teams.
Mhm.
So last year, it made a big difference because we went and competed San Antonio, San Luis, um, Phoenix, all the teams that our pro team plays, but against their academies. But we play teams from California, we play from other places, and the level was very close to what the MLS national team scouts were there. A lot of technology, and there's always going to be development. Our team actually was they put in the GPSs in a new data for information on how much they ran in the game, how many touches, how many were positive, how many negative. Look at the feedback and the loads for the kids throughout the games. Exciting. Everybody got to learn about each other and how we can improve, each year. Obviously, with the DA going down, obviously there's always going to be an extra league, just like ECNL. We will be playing. We were ready to play with the 17s in the national championships and with the 13s. Now it's going to open up to more of a 15, 17, 19 like us. And once again, I said it, USL, most of the MLS teams actually, their U9 teams are going to be playing mostly in the USL against our USL team, our
Mhm.
first team, and they're moving now to more like the USL one or USL two level. Because they want to play those boys, and their money and investment on development is to watch them in front of a crowd, watch them, and to see if they're ready. FC Dallas did that this year. They won the national championship, and they're already producing their own players in homegrown.
Mhm. Correct. North Texas SC, the champions of USL League One. So,
Yeah, so we will have some more kids that are already in our second teams be able to part of that USL Academy, not league. I would call it showcase,
mhm.
because once everybody sees what the cost is to go around the country, you're gonna go, wow! And instead of spending just 7,500 to 8,000, which we do, per kid, you're going to be looking at 11, 12. Colorado spends about 12 to 13,000 per kid. Kansas City spends about 16, 17 when they include international per year. So obviously in the MLS, Adidas provides a big chunk of money to support those programs. We yearly work it, keep looking for more, keep looking for investors to make it better. And I feel that we're not far away to moving more players up. One of those now is Rocha. He's done well. It was exciting to see the whole backline of the U19s when Houston Dynamo came and got to play in that exhibition game where they played 4 halves of 30s, and based on loads from the first team, from Houston Dynamo and ours, our RGV Toros first team reserve with the academy defenders, they got to showcase, and we actually had college coach visiting, who that gave him a huge gauge and knowing what our talent was like, and he was really impressed.
Yeah, I think that was one of the observations that that I had from that match between the Toros and the Houston Dynamo, was how composed that young back line looked against players like Tommy McNamara, an MLS veteran, and other players in the Houston Dynamo that have had their years, in MLS, but aren't necessarily first teamers. So I think that's just kudos to all of those, like you mentioned, that helped one way or another with the development of these kids towards where they're at right now. And obviously as well, all of your efforts to make sure that, that this short-term and long-term plans are into fruition, go into fruition as smoothly as possible.
You got to give a lot of thank you to Gerson, who's given the opportunity to kids to come in and, without believing in them and let them make mistakes and learn from them, and then even pushing them at training, and then being able to come and almost play as close to someone who's done their 4 years at Stanford, like Nico, who was a national champion. I'm very close with the head coach from Stanford, and we worked in Colorado together for years. And see kids that played at Clemson and Virginia, and now our kids are coming and they're right there, but you only get better by being pushed. You only get better. And one of the things we talk about why is so good playing at the MLS Academy levels, because you're gonna be challenged every practice, every game, and the kids here play a lot of good soccer, but not at the speed of play. We have to press because we don't have the size the rest of the country does. When they want us on national teams to play in a 4-3-3, we don't have the outside mids or backs that can go box to box with speed. So there's some changes that we need to make. And we played. I don't know if you guys know what double pass is. Double pass is a company that's registered through FIFA that does an evaluation of professional teams. And they were here for a whole week with us, and it ended up with the matches when we played against San Antonio FC. So for us, that's the big rival, just like the first team.
Mhm.
And the year before, we lost down there 1-0. And this year, we won 5-0. And the 15s, because they only have 17 and 15s now, they were very good team, very good. And we actually came from behind, losing 2-0, went up to 3-2. They tied us because we went for the win, and then we lost in the last play of the game, but they got to play inside the stadium. And those are the opportunities that the kids remember. Diego Rosas played very well, and he played down to his age. And so we have, like I said, 6 to 8 boys that are in national pool. Diego Rosas has been one that was in his way to Italy, and that got canceled. And then the other two boys, Diego Rodriguez and Marcos, were already with their tickets and everything to go to national team camp with the O5s when it got canceled due to the virus.
So moving on with another question, and I think this is a question that a lot of fans on both the Dynamo and RGV side have had with information that, hey, you know what, the RGV Academy is different from the Dynamo Academy. But as we all know, the Dynamo Academy, or the Dynamo, are the ones that control, for the most part, the technical aspects of the RGVFC first team. Does that pose a challenge to you and to the kids when it comes to putting in these kids into the first team compared to the Dynamo Academy?
That's the contract that the pro team has, and obviously is looking at what the direction is, not only from the standpoint of the field but also on the field. And I don't want to say is what it does. We keep working hard and showing it with hard work and showing that our kids belong. And there is a side, yes, they would move. The pathway for them would go academy, come to the USL, and then go back to Houston. But most of those kids are there. So we're here. We're lucky to be here in their own background, and we can get players in. And once again, giving, Coach Gerson, Bobby, and the whole staff that every time our kids come, they get treated just like they're one of the players.
Mhm.
So we kind of, I don't want to say taking a backseat. We're just proving it day to day with hard work and once again, Diego Rocha is right now training every day with those guys and developing. So we tell them, look, keep getting with your education, because maybe you end up with that first team contract, but then you got to keep going to school here, locally, because we're not going to stop that. And Gerson was a college coach, and the other guys were college, so we pushed that. Would we want to be more aligned? Of course, everybody wants that, and we want more kids from the valley to have those opportunities because there's talent there. But everything takes its time. and I know they're talking, and so are other, MLS groups that have called for quite a few of the kids. So we're happy to be part of the league. Remember, they have the Dynamo Youth, which is part of Houston Dynamo,
Mhm.
but they play in the same league. We all compete against each other.
Definitely, and specifically with Diego Rocha, who is a part of the Dynamo first team. You know, he's a player that, if I'm not mistaken, came from Laredo Heat.
Yeah,
Yes. So how how can you explain his play style to fans that will be able to, hopefully, if USL returns to play, maybe not this year, but next year, if he's in the first team, what can we expect from Diego Rocha?
well, I mean, give him a lot of credit that he left home. He saw what we had with the school. He saw what we had with the building developing. Coach Reynaldo, when he came in, he was a number 6, a defensive mid, liked to play it a little bit more ahead. We built from the back, as we said, and a lot of work is done to take him to where he's at. And so Gerson will say, I need a center mid. I need someone that can play in the back. And we luckily have a lot of lefties. I mean, if you look at who I keep saying getting calls up by the national teams, it seems to be all our lefties.
Hmm.
Something that, but finding a center left back that can play out of the back is very hard. And not only here, but in the whole country, there's about 5 or 6 that are that. So he's been seen by Philadelphia. He's been seen by other clubs, and he just happens to be in the right place at the right time. There's a lot of things he needs to work on his strength and his mental side of the game, and we push him that his academics have to be better every day. He's a great kid. One of his strengths is his vision and passing through lines, finding feet, and he can hit a very good diagonal ball. But understanding his both strengths and weaknesses, the air game. When you get to the air game, he's going to be pushing and playing against 25, 26 year olds, and then other teams are going to play against someone his age. They're coming at them just like we did when we played the Galaxy the first game of the season. So um, exciting because that opportunity has come earlier than people expected, and exciting because he's opened doors for other guys and local kids to have that opportunity. We meet the teams from Laredo at times at Roma, or we've gone there and played, or they've come here and played. We actually also play Texas A&M International here with our academies, and we get to see them, and then the pro coaches get to see players from those colleges as well. It's an all-around work. It's a team effort, but once again, giving a lot of credit to the front group that allows us to be part of that.
And I really look forward to seeing more out of Diego Rocha. Hopefully we can see some more of these Valley players in the first team, because I think that's one of the things that this team might the first team kind of needs to work on more, and they've been improving in that aspect, is having more players that are identifiable. With the Rio Grande Valley, or through people who, or kids who have gone through the youth process. We have Isidro from Brownsville, Victor Garza from there from far, Brandon Morales coming from far and through the academy, and now Diego Rocha, another academy player. So I think the
Yeah.
future is looking bright in that.
Oh, it's bright. It's bright. I mean, Chelin is a perfect example of somebody who could have gone to a lot of colleges. We interviewed him because we have a Facebook once or twice a week with me talking about the club and what's going on a weekly basis. But more than anything, also bring in a college coach, or someone that they can listen about what their pathways were, what they've done. And a lot of them say, look, we made mistakes. We went here, we went there, and I wasn't looked at because I was too little. I mean, Chelin played with Pulido, and Pulido's come from this area, and look where he is today.
Mhm.
And then those are some of the things that people need to recognize. And I think that when we went and we applied to U.S. Soccer, Buzz being part of this, is I knew that the profile of player that's here is needed because it's a creative player. But there's also a lot of things that in life we need to be able to jump and not be in a comfortable zone, because that's when you get challenged. When you're comfortable, you get comfortable playing with your group. But the moment you take Chalene out or you take someone and now he goes and does preseason and he does really well, he goes down there. But if he doesn't get playing time, then that confidence and that fitness level. So that's that pathway through the USL. And then somebody gets hurt, then he's ready to step in. Who's going to step from him? And hopefully a kid from here. Diego Rosas has been training with the first team, and he was just 14 years old. So if we don't challenge him, even being around in the warm-ups, being around in the passing drills, being around on the service, obviously on the physical side, a 14 versus a 23-year-old that played in college is not going to be easy. But guess what? He's one that when they looked at him, they asked me, is he a righty or left-footed? And I said, well, he can play with both. And they asked me, is he a righty or left-footed? And I said, okay, he's a righty. Well, he scored 3 goals with his left foot. And then he came back. The scout came back to me and he said, you were right. I'm like, well, I just don't want to be, but I know what we have.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is where the saying goes, "Steel sharpens steel." I think it's a definite example of that. But last couple of questions before we end this interview. So first of all, is how can fans follow what's going on with the academy, and what can we as media, both mainstream, like your local news stations, as well as us fan created media, do to help promote the academy?
So definitely we have our own website with RGV Toros FC, and we also have the Facebook, and you can follow, and we'll put all our schedules and updates. Obviously, with the situation with the virus and the CDC, until we're not allowed to get back on fields, we're holding Zoom training sessions for example, we're giving off this weekend because of the holiday and just finishing school. But next week on the 26th, 27th, and 28th, from 2:30 to 3:30, you can sign up through our website, and then you'll be given a code to get in through our Zoom classes, so you can follow some of the trainings that the coaches and the teams are doing. Tryouts, if it's allowed to get back, everything with distance, you can go and register. We're looking at doing that on the following Saturday, the 30th, 29th and 30th, and just giving opportunity to players who do not play with us. And this way we give everybody a chance. And once we can get back out, we hope that by the beginning of June, we're able to see more. But following the stories in each kid and how they're doing and where they're going to college, also through the Idea Toros on Facebook, with the Idea Toros school. They have a lot of stories on the kids. And then with the social media, we'll get our social media to make sure that we kind of stay in touch with you guys and be able to give you more and how our kids are doing, both on the boys and the girls. And remember that we hosted here 2 years ago the World Cup qualifiers. Our kids got to play against Jamaica and got to do a lot of stuff. And they were both kids and they were involved in the whole process. And this year there was the Olympic qualifiers, and then Mexico was here. And so they got to see the talent and they got to see our facilities, and they all want to come back. So those are huge points. The only thing is that we do want to give back in the community. Is there's anything that we can get out, coaching, education, we'll announce it so people can take advantage. And then just really become a team together in a city that, again, we're proud to be Toros. We're proud to represent the colors, represent the Valley in all areas. And we're also proud of every team that, whether they play for us or not, we want to support them as well, because that's what this is.
Definitely. And the final question, is how can the kids of the Rio Grande Valley and the general vicinity of the RGV join the academy, as far as cost, what kind of tryouts, when things come back to normal, hopefully soon, and what are their expectations outside of the academic expectations that you did touch upon before?
Yeah, no, so we have grassroots. We have a smaller programs for we call it academy, the junior academies. They're involved. It's more like a recreational training, and then they get to play on the weekends once they're able to come back. We now have the facilities there with HEB, and then we have the facilities at the school. We're also in Harlingen, and then we're in Brownsville as well. We have some clubs that we work with, and so you can look at the closest area where you're at. We treat it expensive. We try to, obviously, we have costs that we need to cover, especially on the travel, but we want to build more. We want to get to as many people as we can help out and just grow it. We had Laredo and areas that want to be part, and we're trying to build a league that would play in Laredo, Roma, Brownsville, and then this area, so that we can create another legal pathway for everybody and doesn't take away as well from their high school play and all of that. I think just keep building relationships, and anybody's interested, they can email us. They can look at our information on the website, and then we'll get back to them as soon as possible.
Definitely. Coach Amaya, I thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and answer all of these questions and inform the fans about everything that's going on with the RGVFC Academy. Thank you, like I said, of all the efforts that you've gone. And it's not easy building something from scratch. Literally, a program as complex as an academy. Not anybody can do that, and so we're really grateful for all of that you have done for the youth of the Rio Grande Valley and for the RGVC Toros.
Well, we're very thankful, and we hope that we can keep doing it, and we hope to keep pushing kids up. We're always going to need that support, and I think not only in the academy, but also with the professionals. And we hope that we did get back, and we really appreciate you guys doing this, because that's the way that people get to know more about us. I know during the DA, probably a lot of people didn't know what the DA was. And so it's a league that obviously once you commit and sign, you're there for a year kind of in a contract. But at the end of the day, it's more supporting the play, watching those kids smile, and hopefully we take pride in what we do, and we believe in what we do. And I want to thank our staff. I want to thank the opportunities that the first team gives these kids, the leadership, both in our board with the youth academies, Mr. Cantu, who's the owner for the USL, and hope that, my God, we want to get back to play and hopefully make the playoffs and bring a championship.
Definitely. Hopefully it comes back soon, and you know what? Hopefully we can have you back for another episode of Down in the Valley. This was a really really interesting chat. Kind of get an update as soon as there's a concrete date on the return to play for the academy members.
Thank you. Thanks to you, and I really appreciate the time and the opportunity.
Of course. Thank you, and have a good night and stay safe out there.
All right, the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.